For this project, we'll be using one Arduino and two Raspberry Pi. Let's call them Pi A and Pi B. The reason for using two Raspberry Pi is due to not enough GPIO ports and the Bluetooth buffer interfering with other logics. Now let's look at the connections of actuators and sensors. This is a patient's bed which is controlled by an Arduino. The blue box is not just a support for the joystick which adjusts the bed frame, but it is also a storage unit for patient's essentials. There is a servo motor inside the bed which helps to move the bed frame. Over here is the Wi-Fi switch which triggers the help indicator LED. The Wi-Fi switch can be controlled by any smart home devices or smart home apps. The moist sensor at the bottom side of the bed will be designed on a flexible PCB board in real life and will be inserted in the patient's incontinent brief. The RFID sensor, which is also set at the bottom side of the bed, will check for patient's ID tag and healthcare employee's card. On the left side of the bed, there is a heartbeat sensor which monitors patient's pulse rate. There is also a temp sensor which monitors patient's body temperature. On the inside of the bed, there is a Bluetooth device which sends data to Raspberry Pi B, as in B for Bluetooth. This is the interior wiring of the patient's bed, where you can see the master Bluetooth device and the servo motor which pushes the bed frame. Now let's look at the connection for Raspberry Pi B. There is another Bluetooth device connected to Pi which acts as a slave and is paired with the master in Arduino. Pi B basically controls the MU room, short for monitoring and utilities room. The red LED indicates patient's health and will blink together with a buzzer if patient's health is at risk. The green LED is triggered if a patient calls for help from his or her bed. Meanwhile, the yellow LED is triggered if the patient calls for help from the lavatory. Now let's look at the connection for Raspberry Pi A, as in A for alone, standalone. Raspberry Pi A controls all exterior requirements. At the entrance, you'll see an ultrasonic sensor to detect visitors and a speaker for notification. The edge of this box represents the lavatory, where there is a motion sensor and a ventilation fan. There are also two pairs of buttons which triggers the yellow LED at the MU room. Now let's open and look at the interior wiring. From this view, you can see the buzzer at the MU room which will be triggered for serious emergencies. Here, you can see a DHT11 sensor which detects for fire and a small button which triggers to stop the buzzer. And lastly, we come back to this speaker, which is actually an old amplifier that I soldered to the ISD1820 device. Now let's run the code and see how it goes. With the current pandemic and rising number of cases, following the COVID-19 rules are very important. So when a person walks towards the entrance, the speaker at the side will give a reminder to follow all protocols.
Welcome. Please wear a mask and remember to follow the COVID protocols at all times.
After interviewing an intern at the nursing industry, we came up with a system that is more convenient for nurses and patients. Once a patient is admitted and place his or her tag on the RFID reader, all sensors will start to read data. If no tag is detected, it means there's no patient on the bed. We have added a reclinable bed for the patient and set the joystick conveniently nearby to adjust according to their needs. Data for heartbeat, temperature, calling nurse and the patient's ID will be sent to Raspberry Pi through Bluetooth. This is how the data looks like inside the Pi when there is no patient, and this is how it will turn to once patient ID is detected. The data is later sent to ThinkSpeak through Wi-Fi. There are three ways to seek for help. One would be the help call button inserted inside the joystick. The light at the MU room will only turn off once a staff plays their card. Even if a person pressed the button multiple times, nothing would happen until the nurse plays their card. Once moist sensor detects wetness in patient's brief, the same light at the MU room will turn on. The LED will only turn off once a nurse assists. On cases where patients are not able to move, they can always ask help through Alexa. Alexa, I need help.
Okay.
A Wi-Fi switch is connected to the joystick button and will turn on once triggered by Alexa. If a patient's body temperature or pulse rate is very high, the LED will blink along with the buzzer in quick interval. If it's moderately high, the interval will get slower. If the patient is healthy, there will be no alerts shown. Using a Wi-Fi RGB bulb, lights in the patient's ward are controlled through Alexa. Alexa, good night.
Nighty-night.
Alexa, good morning.
Good morning.
At night time, the lights are warm red as studies are shown it is better for sleep. The lavatory has a motion sensor, and as long as motion is detected, the ventilation fan will turn on. Once there's no motion detected for a certain period of time, the ventilation fan will turn off. The red button indicates for help needed, and if pressed, the yellow LED in the MU room will turn on. The blue button indicates for cancel help, and if pressed, the LED will turn off. There are two pairs of buttons. One pair is near the cubicle side and the other pair is near the shower side. Once high temperature is detected, assuming there's fire, a buzzer will go off. To avoid patients panicking, there is a button at the MU room which will turn off the buzzer. After cooling the sensor, assuming fire has been put up, the sensor will go back to normal stage and continue as a cycle. My Health, a patient service app. It is an app created for patients to not just monitor their health, but to also get helpful tips from the government's healthup.sg page. To check pulse rate or body temperature, a patient needs to fill in his or her NRIC for security purposes. United app, a contact tracing app similar to Trace Together. Whenever a person presses check-in or check-out, the number will be calculated and be sent to ThinkSpeak through Wi-Fi. There will be different messages for nurses, patients and visitors. To identify who is whom, we have keyed in patients and employees' NRIC number. For visitors, the app will only check if the NRIC number is 6-digit. When a person is not vaccinated and tries to enter, he or she will be directed to the vaccination registration page. Nurse Update, which helps nurses to contact the public in case of fire, monitor the room temperature, and also check the crowd control.